Hey, welcome to Two Mental Chicks Land. This is Kay.
This is Jay.
We're here to talk about mental health today. What do you think? How's it going?
It's great. Sounds good. I'm excited to hear what we have to talk about.
Are you mentally stable today?
Today, yes.
Yay, me too. So
Yay.
far, so good. Well, today we're going to go on from our topic last week. We talked about hysteria and kind of the history of mental illness. And today we're going to talk about the role of hormones in mental illness and the role of family and social ties. So what I thought was interesting when I was looking at hormones was I can remember from puberty starting to feel out of control in terms of crying a lot and things like that later I would identify or they would tell me was mental illness. You know, being too emotional, or emotionally labile is what they call it. And so I thought that was interesting. What was your experience like with puberty?
Well, I was alone a lot through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I didn't have anybody there to tell me what is this, or why you're feeling that way, but definitely feeling very different. Mm-hmm. You know, your hormones change it when you're 12 or 13 and you go through emotions you don't quite understand.
Well, if you think about it, the estrogen that starts flowing through a female can affect what can affect mood. It can affect conditions like depression. It can make you manic even. So it can go either way. Estrogen can make any kind of mood happen. And that was what was happening with me in early adulthood. I remember going through that. Basically, what it was a doctor that I went to. It was in my 20s when I was having physical issues. And he put me on antidepressants for the very first time. He addressed me as depressed because I cried a lot because maybe I was depressed. I don't know. I think it was just the physical thing that I was going through. Do you remember crying a lot?
No, I didn't cry much, but I mean, you were in your 20s. Mm-hmm. Were you still having some kind of hormonal imbalances that caused maybe this?
Yeah, I had endometriosis, and they had me on the highest dosage of estrogen they could put me on, and then they started putting me on testosterone. I grew a full beard. It was beautiful, baby.
Ooh.
It was shiny. Oh. Yeah, so I started getting a deep voice. In fact, I went from a first soprano to an alto. Can you tell? I have this nice deep voice that came from hormonal changes. And so that's where I learned that when you mess around with people's hormones, it changes their whole body. I didn't intend to become a boy, but I sound like one now, if you think about it.
But being a young person and going through those hormonal changes at that age when, you know, if you were in your early 20s, that would be a very upsetting thing to your endocrine system, you know, to just be bombarded with all these extra hormones, whatever they prescribe, and then to throw an antidepressant on top of it. It's kind of like...
I know. It's not letting your body do its thing.
Yes.
And I agree with, you know, I understand dealing with people's emotions, but I'm more in the talk therapy because once you get into drugs, you're really changing the whole makeup of a person's body.
Yes.
The whole makeup. And think about what they're doing now with Ritalin, what they're doing with our kids. Instead of having some sort of therapy or doing something physical to change the course of their lives, they're putting them on drugs. And that changes the course of their lives, but not in a good way.
No.
It's almost like the pharmacology system and the food systems and all of these people work in conjunction. It's really sad.
It is.
And scary.
But it's evident. I mean, they put these kids on Ritalin, and then they just shut the door on them, and they think, oh, they're going to take this pill, everything's going to be fine. Oh, yeah. Nothing else needs to be addressed. Well, that's the problem.
Well, it's a guessing game. If you think about practicing medicine. There's a reason they call it practicing.
Yes.
If they could just get a hold on it, that would make me happy. I know they had me on progesterone, which it can have calming effects theoretically with your mood, but it can cause mood swings and it can cause depression and anxiety, just like all the other ones. And testosterone can do the same thing. And it regulates your libido. So I was really horny when I was on testosterone.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that's why I understood how guys were. And I'm like, ooh, not only do I get a deep voice, I get horny. Woo! This is an interesting turn of events.
Sure is.
So, yeah, and that explains guys. Low testosterone,
It
low
happens.
libido. How does that make you feel as a man? I wonder.
Wandering testicles.
Yeah.
Maybe they should rethink that hysteria thing we just talked about.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I think men do go through they have a drop in testosterone after a certain age. Their bodies begin to change.
Yeah.
And that affects them in an adverse way, but it's not talked about because
No.
men have never been in that arena of having hormones or any physical issues. Well, in fact, you do.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I call it manopause.
Sure.
Myself. And I notice it in people around me that are of an older age, that they start to get hormone changes.
Yeah,
I've
that's
noticed it a
perfectly,
lot.
and it's the natural course of life. It's supposed to be that way.
Oh, absolutely. And even things like, we talked about this before. Oxytocin, the one that makes you feel all lovey and fuzzy and all nice when you hug people or love somebody. You can get that from somebody's voice.
Yeah.
You can hear somebody talking across the room and your oxytocin will go up if that's a loving person or they're saying something loving to you. And those things affect our whole body. So if you affect the amount of oxytocin you get, you're affecting the amount of dopamine, the amount of serotonin, and these are all changing how you think, your moods. They got me to the point medically where I was on so many hormones and so many medications that I remember being out of control. And I think, okay, maybe I'm a little crazy, but maybe I'm a little over-medicated too.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a reason, they're called side effects, but really it's an effect.
Yeah.
It's not a side effect. It's actually what it's causing. I, as a certifiable person, have found myself running down a road half naked trying to get away from a situation that I couldn't handle emotionally. That was hormones. That was all hormones. And looking back, I could see it, but the doctors didn't.
Well, and that's what bothers me. And I'm not a medical doctor, and, I respect what they do, but at the same time, I feel like there's some kind of a malaise, if you will, of, I'm a doctor, but maybe they're so overwhelmed in their own careers that the only thing they know to do is to write a prescription. Here you go, take this, but don't call me in the morning.
I know, because what am I going to say tomorrow?
Right, there's no
know.
monitoring. How is this drug doing for you? Let's reevaluate in a month and see if this drug is a positive effect or a negative. I've never had a doctor do that with me.
I've had so many doctors that all practice in different ways, and none of them talk to each other. I literally went to a doctor not too long ago. It's two doctors. One's a psychiatrist, one's a medical doctor. They're both my doctors, so they should both be concerned. They're in the same building, literally on top of each other. Their offices are literally on top of each other, and they don't talk about my care. That bothers me.
It bothers me slick because I've had the same thing. The doctors are on the same, well, did you talk to the GI doctor about this, general practitioner?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll let him know.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
you go see your GI. Well, did the other doctor call you? Nope,
Didn't do it.
Nope, but I'm going to prescribe you something that's contraindicated
Right.
because you're on this drug that I supposedly don't know about. But let's put you on it anyway.
Right.
I love it.
Right. It's practice.
It's practice.
Practice, practice makes perfect. But
Right.
does it?
No.
No, I don't
But,
think
you
so.
know, I've been in a situation in another discipline in the medical world where, you know, we do follow up. You know,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
we're going to do this surgery on you. We're going to check in 7 to 10 days, and then we're going to check you again in a month
Right.
because we're going to monitor it.
Right.
And then when we look at your medical history, we do take an account of what medications you're on because that makes a difference of what we need to prescribe.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, or what we need to be aware of what that medication or effect it has on you as a patient.
Right.
So to me, that's pretty simple, basic science.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. My last doctor was the first one who looked in my eyes and said, "You are your own advocate. You need to tell me what's going on." And I've never had a medical professional do that to me before. And it really helped me. It helped me a lot. It helped me with my stress within his office. I'm stressed when I go to the doctor. My blood pressure goes up.
Everyone's does.
Well, I think it's because they don't listen to you.
They don't.
They don't. They don't think about anything that they're doing. And I pray that that really changes in the future. But, you know, one of the things I think about is cortisol levels. Cortisol is a stress hormone. And if you think about our world right now, think about from the time children are very small, what are they doing? They're watching and playing games that are controversial. You know, a lot of times it's killing things. And their parents don't really think about it. But that changes their cortisol level. It changes how they handle stress. It changes how long they're under stress, and it changes their whole makeup, just like we talked about with the other hormones. Cortisol is a big deal because it really changes how you deal with stress in your environment. So, high cortisol levels can lead to depression.
Well, and a lot of people live their lives like a cat at the dog pound.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even for young people, little kids, in today's world especially, the things that children are exposed to have got to elevate those cortisol levels.
Yeah, I think they do.
So it perpetuates a next generation of...
Yeah, and then mom and dad go to work or school and they get stressed out and they come home and little Billy's there and they get mad at little Billy and it just perpetuates. It's terrible. And then little Billy goes to school and bullies little Sally. It just keeps on going. One of the things that cortisol can control is anxiety disorders. So that makes sense if you think about it being a stress hormone and being anxious. You've had experience with anxiety, right?
Oh, lots of anxiety, yeah.
What was your worst experience?
Well, it was in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I had my first real anxiety attack.
Oh, yeah?
And I was anxious anyway, but I didn't know what it was. I think I was like just 21.
Oh, yeah?
Young, and we went on this Whitewater River trip where we were camping in tents. And we were to float down this Wolf River, and there were like 8 waterfalls. They were fun, little waterfalls, but the last one was an 8-foot drop.
Yeah.
And
That'd freak me out.
it did. And then we went home, and it was storming, and in the car on the way home, I just couldn't breathe, thought I was going to die.
Really?
Impending doom.
That would freak me out.
Yeah.
Was it because of the 8-foot thing? Did you go down it?
Yeah,
you?
successfully.
Really?
Yeah, like a pro.
Wow.
But I don't know. It was the first anxiety attack I ever had.
So were you in the car when you had it?
Yes.
Driving?
I wasn't driving. I was a passenger, but yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
Man.
yeah.
Wow. That
Yeah.
could really be a problem.
It was. It was scary and lasted for hours and hours.
You know, I thought it's interesting to find that people with low cortisol levels have post-traumatic stress disorder.
That is interesting.
Isn't that weird? Because you would think it would be the opposite way, but it's talking about it's because of negative feedback mechanisms, the HPA axis. We won't get into that right now, but basically bodily systems that can react with exaggerated stress. And so it almost wears out the hormone to where there's no more left.
Oh, wow. So it depletes it.
Yeah. Yeah. It can also cause bipolar. So cortisol dysregulation can be a result or can cause bipolar disorder.
I didn't know that.
I know. I didn't know that either. And I'm the bipolar one. You would think I would know that by now. But it can vary. Cortisol varies between manic and depressive episodes. And that makes perfect sense. Because when I'm depressed, I think I'm more anxious and stressed out. When I'm manic, I am happy, 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 happy. So happy.
That's good.
Unbelievably happy. I could solve the world's problems, if they would only put me in office for like 30 minutes when I'm manic.
I'll fix everything.
Yeah, I could take care of you, no problem. So I can see where that would be a big change. So cortisol's impact. Excessive cortisol can actually be neurotoxic.
Interesting.
I know.
I had no idea.
I didn't really think so either. Apparently the hippocampus can be damaged, so it can cause problems with your memory and mood regulations just from having too much cortisol.
Wow.
I know, over time. Can you think of a child, like my child, didn't smile from the time I went through my divorce. He was 9 till he was in his 30s.
Wow.
He didn't smile. And I think it was because of the stress. I think he had so many stress hormones that it affected him. It affected him badly. And he still deals with anxiety and things like that. In fact, he deals with problems with depression, anxiety, and addiction. And I find that interesting. So
they all seem to go hand in hand. All of those things, depression, anxiety, and any kind of abuse of a chemical of sort.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder to some degree if they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, if what I went through affected what he is or has gone through and is going through every day. You have to wonder that as a parent.
Yeah, we can look at our own childhoods and see those patterns.
Absolutely.
And how they trickle down.
Absolutely. Well, they say that therapeutic approaches, you can use antidepressants and I can't say this word, but I'm going to try anyway. Corticosteroid receptor antagonists. Ooh,
excellent
I said
job.
It. Look
you
at
did.
me. But basically, and this is a weird one, mifepristone. You heard of that one in the news lately?
Prestone?
Mifepristone. It's actually, it blocks cortisol receptors and it mitigates high cortisol levels, but it's also an abortion drug.
Oh, gee.
Mifepristone. I'm pretty sure that's the same one.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
I never heard of that particular drug. I know that there's steroids, out there that mess with your endocrine system in a big bad way.
In a very bad way. Well, one of the ways you can deal with any kind of hormonal dysregulation, especially cortisol, is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's what we talked about in the last one, and it helps by changing your thought patterns and your behaviors. Because if you change how you think, you change how you act.
And you just have to make that step to do it. And that's the thing about that cognitive therapy, is it's a physical way of working out your problem. Like me driving on the highway. I was always afraid of it till I really had to do it. And when you had to do it, now I'm not afraid anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There was a place, I thought it was really funny. It was not too far from where you lived way back when. I flipped a car going 70 miles an hour off an off-ramp. Flipped it 4 times. It was very peaceful. Strangely enough, it was very peaceful. But I had a lot of issues after that. Physical injury that affected my mental health. And I thought that was very interesting.
Were you physically injured in that
I
accident?
was physically injured, but it was mostly, think of a centrifuge.
Uh-huh.
Think of that on your head.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. Yeah, I was out of it for about 5 days. I couldn't think. I couldn't do anything. It was terrible. It was like a concussion.
Did you go to the hospital after?
I did, but you can't see a concussion is the problem. And they're like, you're fine, nothing wrong here. But one of the things that helped me, and I know it's strange, but after that, I had a really hard time driving. And I made it through the driving part, like you were talking about with the anxiety. But when I'd get to that bridge, if somebody else was driving the car, I would have a panic attack. If I was driving the car, I wouldn't. I'd be a little skittish, but I'd be okay. And I thought that was really interesting because it meant I had to do it. Like you said, if you have to do it, you do it.
Yeah, you do.
It's that simple.
But I know what you mean because in general, if I'm a passenger in a car, I'm more anxious than if I'm driving.
Right.
And I hate driving.
Right. You're paying more attention. You're worried about them.
Yes. And I don't trust what they're doing.
Right. And so one of the things is cognitive behavioral therapy. You're changing what you're thinking about, how you're acting. One of them is mindfulness. Well, to me, mindfulness therapy is a lot like cognitive behavioral because mindfulness means you're paying attention to what you're doing, right? And then if you're paying attention to it, you're going to change how you're acting and your behavior is going to change, which is going to change everything.
Yeah. It makes me think of choices.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you sometimes you don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do, utilize it.
Exactly. Exactly. One of the things they talk about are lifestyle choices, lifestyle changes that help you with regulating hormones, nutrition. Nutrition is huge. If you don't eat anything but Funyuns and Dr. Pepper all day, every day, you are going to suffer.
Uh-huh. I know all about that.
Yeah, me too. Your body craves nutrients. And where does it come from if it doesn't come from your food?
You have to have it?
Where does it come from? Do you know?
No.
Your bones.
Oh.
And your body, it takes it from the rest of your body. So it'll leach things, leach calcium from you. It'll take everything from your body to make hormones.
And that's why they call it hangry.
Yeah, exactly. You must eat. So nutrition is very, very important. It's important to cortisol regulation. I'm such a good speaker.
Yeah.
Regulation. Sleep. Sleep is essential.
Oh, yeah.
How's your sleep when you go through mental issues?
Well, I sleep really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have no problem
No
sleeping.
problem at all?
Mm-mm. I sleep great, and I'm on a clock, so I go to bed 7:30, 8:30.
Yeah.
Wake up at 4 or 5.
That's not bad.
Naturally.
I think when I have the problems with manias, when I have problems sleeping. But you know what I discovered after my last problem was that my blood pressure was so high that was causing me not to sleep, and the lack of sleep was causing the mania, which was causing the overall problems, which goes back to physical problems can cause mental issues if you think about it.
It's all connected.
I encourage you all to think about it. I encourage you all to basically think about nutrition and think about your lifestyle, your exercise. Are you sitting in a desk all day long, every day? Are you getting any kind of exercise? Even if you do a little chair stretching during the day. Do you do anything like that during the day?
Oh, yes. If I'm at my desk, luckily my jobs have been where I don't have to sit at a desk the whole 8 hours. But if I am at my desk, I do get up and walk around. I have a phone headset so I can walk around the office and answer the phone.
Oh, that's
and,
good.
Yeah, I cannot sit in a chair.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to move around no matter what.
Yeah, I wish I could. I have a real problem with being able to move around. I said I might as well be veal. I figured that out the
Oh,
other day.
no.
I'm veal. Oh my God.
Can you not, like, stand at your desk a little bit?
I'm working on that. I'm working with the risk department on that right now.
Or even one of those elevated desks that
Yeah.
you can
Yeah,
push
I'm
up and
working on
stand.
that. And I think it's really important. We forget what importance exercise is to our whole existence. So I have been trying to walk during the day a little bit, but we're working on it.
Yeah, I've been doing that
Slowly
too
but surely.
lately.
Yeah,
I've
that's
been going
awesome.
out, lunch, walk around the building, outside
That's
for a
great.
little bit because I just want to be able to, get all that physical
That's
activity.
wonderful. Yeah.
But, I mean, basic needs.
Yeah.
Again, we circle back around to basic needs.
Always. Always basic needs. Well, I'm going to shut us down for the day because we have some things to do. So it's time to bring our show to a close, leave two Mental Chix land, and go out into crazy world for another week.
Yeah,
you
that's
ready for
right.
this?
I'm ready.
I'm ready too. We've put on our two Mental Chix hats and I feel prepared. So here's to next week. We didn't actually talk about families this time. We got so involved in cortisol. So let's talk about that next time. We'll get more into it.
That sounds like a good plan. I'm looking
Awesome.
forward to that.
Me too. So this is Kay.
This is Jay.
Y'all have a great week. Bye.